people, it is me, Aiden, and Lucy! And today our mom is going to be showing you guys how to make the Port Orchard Paperbag Pants.
Come on in.
Thank you.
Thank
you can get this pattern at RainCityPatternCompany.com. Let's get sewing. Rain City Pattern Company.
Welcome to the Port Orchard Paperbag Pant tutorial. So here are our required pieces. We have 2 pant fronts, mine are cut at the pant length, 2 pieces of fusible interfacing, 2 facings, and 1 piece of 3/4 inch elastic. And in this tutorial we're going to do the optional belt. So we have 1 belt and 3 belt loops. The first thing you want to do is to transfer your markings for the casing on the facing, and that's going to be located on your pattern piece. So measuring from the top down, depending on what size you have, you're going to want to measure either 1 inch or 1 3/8 inches. So I have mine marked here with the yellow line. So the top is going to have a lot more to it than the bottom of the facing, because this is where we're going to get that paperback ruffle from at the top. So you'll have 1 inch marked out towards the bottom right there. So once you've transferred those markings, now you're going to want to put your interfacing on, so fusible interfacing. And make sure that you put your triangle check right here and right here. That's going to tell you which is the back. And then to know where the top is, it narrows. So the back is at an angle and it kind of narrows. The most narrowest part is the top of the pant. Okay, so for the facing, we want to put that on the wrong side. So this is my right side and this is my wrong side. So I'm going to flip them both so that wrong sides are up. And I have notched out where my back is. So there's my back and here's my back. And I also kind of drew a little yellow triangle around it also to make it easier to see. So with the fusible interfacing, one side will be smooth-ish, but the other side will be more bumpy. That's where your glue is. So also notch, which is the back for that. And then make sure you also know which one is the top. You're just going to place it on your facing like that and like this. And then you're going to want to iron it on. Use whatever instruction came with your fusible interfacing to iron it on. I'll use a cloth over this and then I'll press it. I'll apply 30 seconds of pressing to each of it until it's securely on there. Next, we're going to put the facing right sides together and make sure you line up those back notches. So here's my one back notch and there's my other back notch. And we'll just lie them like this. And then you're going to sew down the short end. So you'll sew here and you're gonna sew here also. Okay, so you can't see it very well, but I've got my short end sewn here. And now before we get too far ahead, what we want to do is we want to secure the raw edge of the bottom. So this is the bottom, and this is the top of my facing. And it's easier to tell from this side because I have my casings marked. And remember I said that the top part above the casing would be the top of the pant to create that roughly paper baglet that we want. So we want to secure this bottom edge that has very little space between it and the casing line. And to do that, I'm going to run a serge all the way around. Now, if you don't have a serger, you can use a zigzag stitch or some other stitch similar to the zigzag stitch, depending on what your sewing machine can do. And you can also use pinking shears. they'll limit the amount of mess that the woven material will have once it starts washing, because as you can see, it's already started to fray here. The interfacing will also keep it from fraying too much, but still, you don't want to leave this unsecured. You want to do something with this raw edge to keep it from fraying, whether it be pinking shears, a zigzag stitch, even a straight stitch would help, something. So let's do that now. We're going to secure this bottom edge. The bottom edge doesn't have very much space between it and the casing line. The top edge has this wide amount of space, so don't do anything with that. So our facing is done for now. Now we're going to put a memory fold in the hem of our pant leg. So this you'll do no matter what length you're doing, if you're making the Bermuda shorts length or the capri length. And all you're going to do is fold your hem up the 1 inch, or if you don't have a serger. So if you have a serger, what you're going to do is you're going to secure this raw edge right here, and then you're going to fold it up and press it 1 inch. And then you don't want to sew or do anything with it yet, because we still have to sew the pant legs. But if you're using a sewing machine, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to press it up a 1/2 inch, and then press it up another 1/2 inch like this. So that's going to keep your raw edge from getting all frayy and messy. Okay, so let's do that now. So I've got my hem folded up, it's not sewn, and now we want to sew the pant legs together. So we just take it and we're going to fold it right sides together and unfold this bottom hem, and we will start sewing from the hem all the way up to the crotch, and then we'll repeat that on the other one. Now remember, if you're using just a regular sewing machine, you need to secure this raw edge right here with a zigzag or pinking shears or a straight stitch, something, because it will fray. So remember to always do that. I'm going to use my serger, so that'll keep the raw material from fraying. So we'll sew this leg, and then we'll repeat that on the other leg. So fold right sides together, unfold the hem, and remember you start from the bottom of the pant and sew up towards the crotch. Okay, now that this seam is sewn, we're going to sew the crotch right here. So to do that, we're going to take one of the pant legs and we're going to turn it right side out. So just like this, and then we're going to put it inside of this piece right here. So bottom of the pant, I'm just going to insert it right here, and I'm going to line up the crotch curve. You could pin this if you want. So lining up the crotch seam. So that's the inseam of both the pant legs, and then each curve. Like that. So now I'm going to take it to my machine, and I'm going to use my serger, and I'm going to sew. Now keep these all lined up. I'll sew all the way down, and then when I get to this seam right here where the inseam is, I'm going to press one of the seams that way and then the other one this way, so that it's not quite so bulky there. And then I'll just keep serging up and around. So remember, if you're using a sewing machine, you want to secure this raw edge right here. Do an extra row of straight stitches, do the pinking shears, serge it, something, the zigzag, to keep it from fraying when it washes. With the hem done, we're going to do our facing now. So remember which is the back of the pant. Remember, we marked it. This is my back. I got little arrows. I got a clip in the seam allowance, so I know this is my back. if for some reason your mark is gone and you can't remember, you can always open the pant up and look inside, and you'll see that one side has a bigger scoop than the other. So the bigger scoop is your back, because that's where your butt has got to go. And this little scoop in the front, that's for your front. So that's another way to tell if for some reason your mark is gone. You can look inside the pant, and whichever one looks to have the bigger scoop, that'll be your back. Okay, so we know our front and our back, and then I have my clipped corners here still, and then you can kind of see just a very little bit of the yellow triangle that I marked. So I know that is my back. And if you're having a hard time telling for this piece, the back has a slight angle to it. So it angles like that. It's not as dramatic as that, but that will be your back. So the one that's more straight, that's your front. The one that kind of has a slight angle to it, that's your back. So pants are right side out. Your facing is wrong side out, and we're going to insert the pant into it, and we're going to line up the front seam and the back seam. And because I sewed my facing seam with a straight stitch, all I'm going to do is open that seam up like that. And then my crotch seam, I'm just pressing to one side. And it should go in the same direction that you pressed it earlier. So if you press this seam that way, you're going to want your pant seam to go the opposite direction. So because my seam has been sewn, I pressed it open, and then I just pressed the pant seam to one side. So if you have a serge seam, the seams go in opposite directions. If you have a sewn seam, the seam is opened. If you have one of each, open the one and then press the other one the opposite direction. So now we're going to sew this on, and I'm going to use my serger, and I'll serge this all around. If you're using a sewing machine, you can just sew it. You don't need to use a zigzag and secure that raw edge. It will be secured inside of the casing area, so you don't have to worry about a mess when it gets washed. Okay, now we're going to understitch this. So by that I mean we're going to open up our facing, and then we're going to press this seam, this one right here, we're going to press it onto the facing. So press it up all the way around, and then we're going to use a straight stitch, and we're going to sew this seam onto the facing. Okay, so once you're done doing your understitching, you're going to press the facing inside of the pant, and this is what it'll look like. So before, my seam was all wiggly, and now it is stuck to my facing. We sewed it to the facing, and then I took it over to my iron and I pressed the facing inside of the pant. So now it looks like this. So the next step is we're going to sew the casing for the elastic. The top row of stitches you can stitch all the way around, but the second row of stitches you're going to want to leave an opening of 1 to 2 inches. And I like to do that on the back of my pants so that it's less visible. So I'll start at the back, and I'll sew all the way around for my top, and then for my second one I'll start about 1 inch on this side and 1 inch on that side to leave that 2-inch opening. And your markings, if you forgot to do them, you'll want to transfer them now. But remember that the seam has now been taken away. So take a 1/4 inch away from your pattern piece and then measure down. Okay, so I turned my pants wrong side out to make it easier to see what I'm going to do. So now it's time to insert this elastic into the casing, and I'm going to attach the safety pin to one end, and I'm just going to insert it into that casing, and I'm going to pull it all the way around. What you want to remember when you do this is that you don't want the short end to get sucked in there. So as you get close to it being sucked in, you could pin it to your pant to keep it there, or yeah, some other method. You could try to clip it, but the clip might not hold it. And then also you want to try to make sure that you don't twist your elastic. You want it to be flat as you go all the way around. And so at the end you're going to want to check that. So let's insert this elastic. Okay, so I have my elastic all the way in, and I'm going to unclip it from my pant here, and I'm going to put it so that the ends are together and they're not twisted. So it's flat all the way around my pant, and then they meet together. And now we're just going to sew this short end down right here. My ends are sewn, and the next thing to do is to get all that elastic back into the casing and then sew that hole closed. So we'll sew it right there, closed with a straight stitch. So now the pant is done, and if you're not doing the belt loops with the belt, then you are 100% done. If you're doing the belt loops and the belt, keep watching for the rest of the tutorial. Okay, so for the belt loop, what you gotta do is fold the short ends to the wrong side, a 1/2 inch, fold it and press it. And then you're going to fold, with these still folded, right sides together the long ways, like this. And then with the entire thing folded like that, you'll sew all the way down using a straight stitch. So this is what my belt looks like with that long side sewn. And I'm going to turn this right side out, and I'm going to use the same deal with the safety pin. So I'm going to attach the safety pin to one side, and then I'm just going to work it to the wrong side. Or excuse me, right side out. I'm going to make it right side out. And then once I get it right side out, I'm going to press it so that the seam is in the center. This takes a long time to do. Almost there. Almost there. Okay. Now, I'm going to fold this in. There we go. Perfect. Take my safety pin off. I'm going to take this over to my iron, and I'm going to iron it so that this seam is in the middle. I'm going to press it to one side, and there, just like that. Press the whole thing. Okay, So the seam is down the center back, and I'm going to stitch the short end, so just a straight stitch to close up the belt loop. Once we have that done, we're going to move on to the belt loops themselves. We are going to take them, and I'm doing 3, but you can do as many belt loops as you like. You could even do 2, or you could do 5. So with the belt loops, we're going to fold them into 4s. So we'll fold them in half, wrong sides together. We'll open it up, and when we do that, it creates a center line. So we'll fold it in half at the center line like this, and then we'll fold it one more time like this. And then we'll sew down the short, or the long end right here. And we'll do that with all of our belt loops. I'm doing 3, you could do 5, you could do 2, you could opt out and do none. So the belt loops have been sewn, and then I pressed the little short ends up 3/8 of an inch. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to mark your belt loop placement. So for mine, I'm going to do one in the center back and then one on each side seam. And I just found the side seams by lining up the front and back seam and then lining it together. So we're going to put this over where our casing is, and we're going to stitch about 1/8 inch away from each of the folds for the belt loops. Right like that, and that'll hold it in place. And there you have it. You are all done with your Port Orchard Paperbag Pants. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please subscribe.